up and talk. Thank you. It's time to sit down, find the program that should be in front of us, and let's keep networking to the break. Just doing a quick mic check if you're wondering what I'm doing standing up here. I will be your MC. I just want to make sure that everyone is in the room, is fully engaged, which you all seem to be. Nice to see some smiling faces. Everybody had some pastries, a nice bit of coffee. Fantastic.
Morning, everyone. How are you doing? Doing great. Okay. Welcome to District 91 Conference Day 2. My name, round of applause. My name is Val Slavina, and today I will be doing a bit of a welcome address to you all. First of all, big thanks to all of you for coming that early on a Saturday to be with us and to share that great moment. We are really grateful for you being there, and what an amazing experience for all of us. We haven't had an opportunity to be in person for a number of years. Let's forget how many. But now we are finally back in person, finally back to be able to do those handshakes, those hugs, seeing those real smiles. For those of you who were here yesterday, you knew we had quite a great start. And today and tomorrow, we'll have much more going on in store for you. And I would like to thank all of the people who took part in putting this conference together. Their effort, their time, and their resilience have been quite commendable. So just a round of applause to the team who was behind the scenes. And now, to take you through the day, I would like to hand you over to your MC of the morning, Steve Saunders, or as some of you might know him as Steve Cheese. Steve, over to you.
I think I just should explain the cheese part of the Steve Cheese. Yes, I am wearing a yellow tie with a pocket square, but I also happen to be one of the ambassadors of the cheese industry here in the UK. So I'm very fortunate. Now, as you're aware, I need to now make the housekeeping rules for this morning's session. But before that, Madam District Director, good morning. Second Vice President of Toastmasters International, good morning. Our fellow Toastmasters, good morning. Now, as seasoned members, you'll appreciate that the housekeeping needs to be addressed, which is why if the fire alarm goes off this morning, I need you to stay present in this room. Now, I've been made fully aware of the fire procedures here, and because the Barbican Centre is quite the maze, they will come and get us. Now, if, for example, that doesn't happen, find your nearest fire exit, and literally you're going to go as right out of the building as far as you can, follow the signs. This is not a race, and no, the windows are not the quickest way out of here. Now, I'm sure you're all as popular as me. So I want you to take the time now in making sure your phones are on silent, or preferably off. Now, where's that Mr. Sutcliffe? It's normally his phone that we are the latest ringtone, and what he's downloaded from the different sites that he goes on, music sites that is, obviously. But he's currently not in this room, so we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Okay, and this will also remind you that photos and videos are not permitted of any speakers or any speeches throughout the events that we have today. But I can assure you, come and find me in the break and we can have a selfie together. Also, be aware that there are cameras in this room as well. And try not to get up and stand in front of them. We all love to be on camera, don't we? But again, let's leave the cameras. There's lots of people online watching this event as well. So let's just take the time to stay located in our seats themselves and enjoy the up and coming events that we will have today. Okay. So I want to now introduce someone to you that has not only traveled half of the globe to be with us today, but someone who started her Toastmaster journey over 15 years ago. Someone who continued to keep her hand high to gain every single opportunity that this amazing organization offers each and every one of us to be able to be and become great leaders. So not only do I want you to be upstanding, but I want you to support me in a very warm welcome for our keynote speaker, the second Vice President of Toastmasters International, Aletta Rochat.
Thank you so much, District 91. I am seriously impressed. Can I tell you why? Despite the problems with the trains, and despite the fact that you could have gone to the Eurovision Song Contest, you chose to be here with us. Thank you, thank you. As Steve mentioned, I've been in Toastmasters for a while. And like some of you, I'm a lifer. How many of you would claim to be a lifer in Toastmasters? Yeah, you just keep on coming back. And the reason we keep on coming back is because we continue to learn. But I don't just want to attend the meetings. I don't just want to get a little bit better. If you can show me a way to grow exponentially as a leader, I'm in. Because I reckon if I can become a better leader, I can impact more people around me. I can be better not only within Toastmasters, but in my home, my community, my country. Don't we all need better leadership in our countries? My country certainly does. And when I look for inspiration on leadership, there's so much available. I could go to the academics and the flow charts and the very clever concepts, which I absolutely enjoy. But there's a part of me that loves simplicity. And if I have to be the contest chair for a table topics contest, I will usually go for inspiration to someone like Winnie the Pooh and find something that Winnie the Pooh said and put that as a table topics topic. So when it came to leadership, I decided, let's have a little bit of fun. And who did I go to? Dr. Seuss. And I came across this purely by accident because when the conference team reached out to me and said, what's the title of your keynote? I thought, oh gosh, I better give them a title. And it was around the time, early March, which is Dr. Seuss's birthday. And I thought, let's see what Dr. Seuss has to say about leadership. And I was delighted. There was so much material. So today we're going to see what Dr. Seuss can teach us that we can take in our journey and apply right away. And the purpose of this keynote is not just to entertain you with childhood stories and quotes, but to give you something that you can put into practice today, tomorrow, next week, because that's how we get better, by trying things out and getting feedback. Think back to your icebreaker speech at your club? How much time did you get? 4 to 6 minutes. So if I told you that years ago, early on in my Toastmasters journey, I met a guy by the name of Emil. Tall guy, you couldn't miss him in a room, he was that tall. And Jackie, who we heard from last night, her neck would have definitely had a crick looking up at Emil. And he was the type of guy who, when he smiled, his smile lit up the room. And he was an ordinary person like you and me, went to a Toastmasters club, said, I'd like to join. And they said, come. And then he scheduled his icebreaker. But when Emil did his icebreaker, it didn't take him 4 to 6 minutes. It took him 16 minutes. And that wasn't because he'd had a long and interesting life and he was putting too much into his speech. It was because Emil had a profound stutter. And it took him that long to get the words out. So imagine being Emil, coming, number one, the courage to come to a Toastmasters club and say, I struggle with speaking, but can I join? And getting a warm welcome and saying, come, we can help you. And then imagine being one of the club members, listening to someone struggling to get the words out, willing him on. But those people in that club were kind, they were patient, and they were compassionate. And over the years, I watched Emil, and soon he was a club officer. Then he was club president, then area director. And then came the day I saw him in front of 70 people as division director on stage, entertaining us, inspiring us, informing us, and he hardly stuttered. He was an inspiration. And that is what his club embodied. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And that is a leadership action that each one of us, irrespective of whether we've got a fancy badge or not, we can extend to someone else. The caring that provides a safe space for them to come and learn and be a better version of themselves. I was asked to be a mentor for a club, a corporate club, and they were called Personal Trust. They were a financial services company. They were quite a small corporation, and they extended the invitation to everybody who worked there to come and be a Toastmaster. And they were the predictable people who were client-facing, who wanted to do better presentations. But then there was also a lady by the name of Rosa. Her role in the company was very simple. She made tea and coffee, and she served lunches. So she joined, and the only time she'd been in the boardroom before would have been to serve tea and coffee or clear away dishes. She was from a relatively poor background, and I'm not even sure she finished high school. But she came and embraced what we had to offer, and she participated. And I loved her stories because her background was so different to mine, and I could learn from her and see the world through her eyes. And then there was a day I'll never forget when Rosa, as part of her leadership journey, volunteered to be an evaluator. And she was evaluating one of the client-facing people who probably had 2 or 3 degrees to his name. And there they were in a Toastmasters meeting, equals. And more than that, she had realized that she could add value to his journey by giving her evaluation of his speech. And that to me was beautiful about what we do in Toastmasters. We become equals, we learn from one another. And that only happened because her company cared a whole awful lot and decided that the experience should be open to everybody there, irrespective of their background. So we need to open our doors to people who are different to us, because in that way we learn from one another and miracles happen. And the third character I'd like you to introduce you to is a guy by the name of Tom. He was a member of our club, and we've got quite a strong mentoring system. And he asked me if I'd be his mentor. And I said, sure. Now, Tom had turned down job promotions, not just one, like a handful of them, because the promotion involved public speaking. So can you imagine your boss comes to you and said, I'd like to promote you, give you more money, more perks, and you say, sorry, not going to do it. And maybe you might have turned down some leadership opportunities within Toastmasters because you said, not going to do it. So Tom had this fear. It was like a massive fear of public speaking. And we worked together and I helped him craft his speeches. And the strangest thing happened. Almost every time he spoke, he got the Best Speaker Award. Not because we felt sorry for him, but because he was so good. And it happened time after time after time. And you just saw his confidence soaring, and you thought he probably was regretting all those promotions he turned down. And then the day came that a new member joined the club, Emily. And we said to her, we'd like to assign you a mentor. Is there anybody in the club that you'd like to work with? And she said, I want Tom. And I got to phone him and say, Tom, guess what? Emily wants you to be a mentor because she wants to be as good as you are. That's part of the transformation. And that's part of us caring a whole awful lot to meet people where they are, to take them where they can be. I often say in Toastmasters, we give each other a glimpse of our future selves. But often we can't see the potential in ourselves, and it takes someone else to tap us on the shoulder and say, I can see where you can go with this. So it's always all about the people, whether it's your club, a leadership team, whether it's a district team. We are people first and tasks come second. If we can build the relationship with the people, the tasks unfold and take care of themselves. There is incredible power when you speak to the possibility you see in somebody, because they may have, let's face it, we've all suffered from imposter syndrome and think, oh, I can't possibly do it. But when someone else says to you, you can do it, it's somehow like you give more credibility to that voice. Because so often we take our talents and we diminish them and say, oh, it's nothing. I'm not that special. But when somebody else sees it in us, we start believing in ourselves. So it's important that we take the time and opportunity to speak to possibility in others. Build the relationships. If you build the relationships on your team, the tasks will flow. Validate and celebrate every step of the way, not just when you win at the end of the year, but every step of that journey. Teams that validate and celebrate are teams that thrive. Right, now that's all well and good, and it sounds like a happy fairy tale. What happens when things go wrong? I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. And I would paraphrase that and say, will happen to you. Because as optimistic as you may be at the beginning of the year, challenges are going to come your way. Not when you're ready for it. And not just one at a time. They sometimes come like in tsunamis. How many of you have been part of a team that's not been optimal? Yeah, it's not fun, is it? I've had some severely challenging times as a leader. And sometimes it's just that yourself and the other person, it's like oil and water. Nothing quite sticks or gels. And I remember being on such a team and tearing my hair out. I just couldn't make headway. Whatever I tried didn't work. Whatever worked with everybody else didn't work with this person. I had sleepless nights, my stomach was in a knot. If I saw that person's name on my phone, the anxiety just started. It was horrible. What do you do? I did two things. I first had a venting mentor. Somebody I could call up when I was absolutely at my wit's end. And luckily they lived nearby, and it was a husband and wife. They were past leaders in our district. I'd go to their house, we'd open up a bottle of wine, and I would just vent. And it was such a relief to be in a safe space as a leader, knowing that the people I was speaking to were trustworthy and that that conversation would never leave that room. And I could say all the things I could never possibly say in public and get it all off my chest and then listen to their wisdom and their perspective. And then I could go back to that same situation as an adult rather than a toddler. So if you need a venting mentor, get a venting mentor. Pedro is really liking that. Oh, yeah. Make it, yeah, exactly. Make it worth their while. And the thing about mentorship, you don't have to marry your mentor. So you can have a mentor for a short period of time for a specific purpose. So, you know, exchange mentors. You need mentors at certain times for different things, and venting mentors are worth their weight in gold. But I had another mentor who was far wiser than I was. And I phoned him and I said, Eric, I am just losing everything. I just don't know what to do. I'm so frustrated. And he said to me, Aletta, you need to approach this with empathy. And I thought, I'm not looking for empathy. I'm wanting to sort this problem out. And obviously it's the other guy's fault. It can't be my fault. And he said these words that I've never forgotten. He said, the movie going on in that guy's head makes perfect sense to him. That changed the way I approached the situation, because suddenly I realized that he was just as talented, just as committed, just as passionate as I was. He was just watching another movie. And he might have been watching the same thing, but from a different angle. And what that did for me, it allowed me in my mind to open up a space where maybe he could be right. And maybe his value was much bigger than I was giving him credit for. And it allowed me to go back to that with empathy. And I'm not pretending that suddenly we were best friends. No, we weren't. But it did make the situation more workable, more fluid. And it allowed me to be less rigid. So make sure that when hang-ups and bang-ups and hang-ups happen to you, that you've got the right people on your side. When conflict happens, you know, your family can't sit at breakfast sometimes without conflict. And I know some people who thrive on conflict to the extent that if they haven't fought with someone by lunchtime, they think they're ill. Maybe you know someone like that. We all have a different relationship to conflict. I used to be terribly conflict avoidant. Not anymore. Now I've learned how to deal with it. But we have different relationships to conflict, but it's going to come our way. So what can we do to manage it? Many years ago, my son was in primary school, and I got a call from the headmistress to say that he'd been the victim of a bullying incident. And she was calling to let me know about it, but also to tell me how she was handling it. And I learned so much from her. The first thing she did, she said to me, I believe that we need to shine a light on conflict. And how she interpreted that is she invited everybody who was part of that incident into her office. Not like, you better come, you're in big trouble, but come on in, lovely big couches, come and sit, let's talk about what happened. The bully got to talk about it. The person who was bullied got to talk about it. The people who watched and stood by and did nothing gave to give their account. And anyone else who perhaps intervened got to give their account. So the beauty of that was that everyone got to hear the other person's perspective. And they had to own up to their role in it. Because sometimes our role in conflict is perpetuating it. Sometimes it's doing nothing about it. Because on some level, it serves us. In public, I might be saying, oh no, this has got to end. And in private, I'm saying, did you hear about that? And quite enjoying that somebody else is in trouble. We all play games with conflict. So we've got to own up to our own role in the conflict. But if you wanted to move on, and my personal belief is that conflict is temporary. But I have learned the hard way that there are some people who cling on to conflict because it serves them and they don't want it to end. So whatever you do around conflict, it won't always be a perfect solution, but shining a light on it and talking about it is very important. Did you notice the word I used? Talk about conflict. Not type about it, not text about it, not email about it, because that's a downward spiral of negativity. But ideally face-to-face or on a phone call. So if I get a nasty email, the first thing I do is I phone that person and try and set up a meeting. And if you can just hear them out and truly listen, don't get defensive, just listen. And when someone says something ridiculous that you find absolutely offensive, what do you say? How interesting. And just give yourself time, don't respond or react. Give yourself time to process it, because for some of us, whatever they said could have been deeply hurtful, and we can't respond as adults. So just say, how interesting, let me think about that, and give yourself time to process and come back when you are in a position to do it optimally, as a leader would. Conflict is going to happen. Bang-ups and hang-ups are going to come your way. But if you do all these things of shining a light on it, approaching it with empathy, creating space that somebody else might be right, as much as you don't want to admit that. We're human, after all. But the way you navigate conflict as an individual and as a team speaks volumes about your leadership. And if we can go through those difficult times together, then the good times will come. So don't give up, but don't do it alone. Find the venting mentor, find the other mentor, get the help you need, because a burnt out Toastmaster doesn't help anyone. So you need to fill your tank, feed your soul, so that when these times come, you've got some resilience and people around you to get you through it. They won't go according to plan. It's a given. So that's a myth to think it's all going to be, moonlight and roses till the end. Things are going to happen, so be ready for it. Shine a light on conflict. Reach out for help early rather than late. That's one thing I've learned over the years. I used to have this philosophy, I must figure it out myself. I can do this. But in the process, you wear yourself down, and if you take pain for far longer than you should. Get help early. And get a mentor of whichever variety you like, the wine and venting mentor or the wise mentor, whichever one you need, that's the one you've got to put in place. So get that going. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Isn't that cool? That's such a cool thing for us to remind ourselves, that success is inevitable if we are prepared to do the work, not only the tasks that need to be done, but the work on ourselves and looking after the dynamics in the team. Those are all things that will guarantee success. To be successful, you've got to define what that success means to you. Numbers are part of it, but success isn't only defined by numbers. Numbers tell a story, but how you get to those numbers also tells a story. So you've got to define for you and your team what is important to you as a team. In all the success plans that we have in Toastmasters, the club, area, division, and district success plans, there's usually one little paragraph that says, what are the team operating norms? And that is so important. We are human beings, but when it comes to leadership, we often act like human doings. So if you look at the agendas for our meeting, it's all about doing, but we spend precious little time defining how we're going to be as a team. What's important to you as a team? How do you handle conflict? I remember when I first went through this exercise, our district governor at the time said to us, one of my team operating norms is let's raise red flags early. If there's any problem, let us know early, because then we can step in to help you. Or if you can't meet whatever you're accountable for and you need to step back, you let us know early. You don't just keep silent. So taking the time to define that for your team is so important. And you can hold one another accountable to say, this is how we agreed to work as a team. And when things go wrong, you can say, let's go back to those principles we all agreed on and get input from everybody. It's not just the leaders who says this, we'll do it this way. What does your team want as a team operating norm? And then start with the end in mind and be bold. So often I think it's easier for us to say, well, we're just going to do the tasks. but what's your vision for your team, for yourself? When I was the last district governor, that's how long ago it was. And our vision that year, and it was our vision, was to be President's Distinguished. And we had the slogan, think big, think President's Distinguished. But that wasn't enough. We had to get the district to buy into that. And the way we tried to message that was to say, we know that when people come to Toastmasters, they grow in confidence. And they take that confidence back to their families, their careers, their communities. That's why we need more people in our program, because we want more people to have that experience, because we need it at family level, career level, country level, community level. And that messaging went out 1,000 times. I didn't just say you'll need to pay your dues by the 15th of the month. It was a little story. When people come in, they grow in confidence and self-assurance. They take that with them to their careers, their families, their communities. That's why we need you to pay your dues. So whatever your vision is, make sure it's communicated again and again with that end in mind. That particular year, we didn't quite get to President's Distinguished, we got to select, but that vision kept us going and it motivated us, and we were all trying to work in the same direction. One of the things I learned, which is so important, is where's the ball? And what I mean by that, if you're chasing club membership dues, new members, education awards, on a district level, it's new clubs, member payments, they're all these balls you're juggling in the air all at once, and you're trying to keep an eye on everything. And then suddenly you'll say to someone, have you followed up with so-and-so on that new member? And that person will say to you, yes, I emailed them. And you think, great, the job's done. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by before, because we're all busy, we go back and say, have we heard back from so-and-so? No, I sent them an email, but you've lost 3 weeks. And I call it sometimes extreme hand-holding, really paying attention to what the next step is, who's accountable for that, and when are they going to come back to you and give you feedback. It's not micromanaging. There's a difference, because I hate being micromanaged. But it is being very clear as to what's going to happen next, who's responsible, and when you're going to follow up. And between today and the 30th of June, if you and your club or as a district are chasing numbers to get those goals that are important to you, you have to know where the balls are. Who's going to follow up? What is going to happen next? Who's doing it? So pay really close attention to that, because that'll help you get to the finish line effectively and successfully. The other question I often ask myself is, what will it take for us to be successful? And what will it take for that one person on the team to be with us, to be part of it? And sometimes people need special attention. Sometimes there are individuals who will dig their heels in and become non-communicative for the simple reason that you've left them out of the loop. They haven't been consulted. So what will it take to bring that person along? What can you put in place to support that person or to support your team? If there are people who struggle with pathways because it's computer stuff they've never done before, what can you put in place to help them up that learning curve so that they can participate and start meeting their education goals? What will it take to get your club to be distinguished? My club's got a very proud history. I think we've been President's Distinguished every year for over 20 years. And during COVID, we struggled. And I looked at the dashboard and I thought, oh my gosh, we don't want to be the team that dropped this particular ball. So I did a presentation to my club explaining our proud history and why it's so important that it's serving our members. And then we identified the gaps. We had a couple of new members that we needed, and we had some education awards that we needed. What can we do to put that in place? Now remember, when you're chasing numbers, you still got to look after the individual. So we had to identify people who were close to completing a level in pathways, but we had to convince them to take action for them, not just for us. Because if we said, oh, we need it, you better do it because we need it, they would just say, sorry. So we had to have those conversations and identify the people who could potentially help us, and then try and convince them to do it within the time frame that we were working to. What did it take? Apart from the conversations and the focus and the commitment to the goal, it took putting speakathons in place. And we had to be very careful because we had to put them at a time that was convenient to the people who were speaking, because else it wouldn't have worked. And we got there. We were very relieved and proud that we got there. So what will it take? So you already have what it takes. You've got the talent. You've got the depth of leadership here. You've got the support. So you will be successful, 98.75% guaranteed, to be precise. Start with the end in mind. Where is the ball, and who is responsible for following up and taking that next step in that journey? And what will it take to get everybody there? So there's only one final message from Dr. Seuss. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. So as we talk about inspiring futures, I know that District 91 has what it takes to succeed. You have inspired many of us for so long, and this year is no exception. You've got the leaders, you've got the talent, you've got the commitment. So go and be super successful. And I'm so excited to be part of what you're doing this weekend. And I look forward to celebrating your success.
A true inspiration to us all. And I can't wait to be able to implement these into not only my club, but my own Toastmasters career. But I'm also thinking about this mentor. Could they have cheese and wine? Okay. Now, for those of you who will be present in the district council meeting, I need you to ensure me right now that you'll be back here by 9:45. Otherwise, I will come and personally find you for registration. Now, the rest of you, we have lined up 3 amazing speakers in our side stream at the University of Law. And go over there and support them as much as possible, and be inspired by 3 other speakers that will show you different aspects of their lives and their stories as well. So go and take the time now to go and get refreshed. Go and have a cup of tea. Somebody bring me one, that would be lovely. No wine at this time. And I want to thank you for being such an amazing audience, to not only myself, but to Aletta and the team. And I have Rose waving at me. Hello, Rose.
Chris will help you to go to
Fantastic. And Chris is here to support us, obviously, as an usher. And he's another person with a very loud voice as well. So thank you. Hello.